Here we go. Hi, Peter Charles here, Smallmouth Fly Fishing. And I've run into a problem recently when fishing with smallmouth, for smallmouth, that I used to run into a lot with brown trout, and that's the issue of the stun strike. Whereas the fish comes up and whacks the fly, or in my case, the jig when I was having problems getting hookups. But, you know, you rarely hook up. My brown trout hookup rate was terrible on streamers. And you get this hard whack, and if you did hook up, sometimes it's on the outside of the mouth. So what was going on? So I figured out it was a stun strike. They were coming up, whacking it to kill the prey before they inhale it. And so what I started to do is I'd be stripping, and then when I'd get that hard strike, I'd let go of the line. The streamer would start to tumble in the current, and then I'd bring it under tension again, and then bam, the fish would hook up. So recently I've been fishing this rabbit strip jig on a spinning rod for smallmouth, and my hookup rate was terrible. And I tried all sorts of different things to get a better hookup rate. And it dawned on me I'm having the same problem, because here was the difference. On the fish that I hooked up, I almost hardly felt them. It's just like I'm just reeling, and all of a sudden there's a fish there. And that tells me they were inhaling the jig in one go. But a lot of them were really hard whacks. And very seldom did I get a good hookup on one of those hard whacks. Occasionally I'd get one would be just on the edge of the mouth. So like, what was going on? Well, obviously they're doing the same stun strike, and it makes perfect sense. I mean, that jig is about that long, when you include the rabbit tail. You know, it's a good 6 inches long. And if you are a 10-inch smallmouth trying to inhale a 6-inch bait fish, well, you're going to have to stun it or kill it before you try to orient it head first into your mouth and start to swallow it. You can't just grab it and eat it. You have to kill it first, or at least knock it out. So now you can get it oriented down, especially for spiny rayed fish. I mean, a lot of the bait fish on the water are soft rayed fish. Doesn't matter how they take them in their mouths. They're small, soft rayed, down they go. But if you're talking about a large spiny rayed fish, then they're going to have to orient that properly down their gullet. And so what's going on? We're getting these stun strikes. Now here's the problem when you're fishing a jig, is you've got that big lead head. So the fish whacks the big lead head, feels that heavy lead, and goes, ah, that's not living. Off he goes. So only once did I get a comeback strike, and that was actually 2 or 3 strikes, and they were soft, which to me tells me he was coming up from behind and trying to inhale it, as opposed to whacking it. There was no whack on that. It was just soft pull, soft pull, soft pull, hook up. And that was the only time where there was multiple takes. Every other occasion, the fish never ever came back for a second round, because they're hitting that hard jig and they lose interest. So really what it does tell us is that if we're getting into that situation, we really have to downsize. And if they're coming up against something that's a lot smaller, odds are they'll just inhale it right off the go. And especially if you're doing what I was doing, which is more like a sculpin imitation, that's a spiny rayed fish. I mean, they have to be careful taking that in. If you imitate something else, like a soft rayed species, probably doesn't matter, especially if it's smaller. So if you're getting a lot of stun strikes and you're fishing a jig or a streamer with a lot of lead in it, you may not get a second comeback. They may not hit it a second time because it just doesn't feel right. So I think for smallmouth, for conventional tackle, downsize. Soft plastics help when they grab a soft plastic and don't hook up. They could come back for round 2. That happens with soft plastics. But if you've got a heavy jig head in there, they may not come back for round 2. So this is really a problem with the smaller fish. Obviously, if it's a great big smallmouth, they'll just grab it and draw it in, and it's done and done with. But I think on these, around about that 1 to 2 pound range, they're not trying to swallow the jig or the large fly on the first go. They're trying to kill it, and then they'll swallow it. So I think if you're getting a lot of strikes and you're not getting a lot of hookups, for conventional fishing, downsize. For fly fishing, get the idea of letting your line go and then tightening back up. And when you do that, and what happens is the streamer tumbles, and then when you bring it back under tension, it starts to orient itself upstream, and bang, the fish will be on it. So give that a try and keep that in mind. Just don't give up when you're getting a lot of strikes, no hits. There could be a reason. So remember, the sun strike. Cheers. There we go.
Jeff's that question.
Yeah. Another.